Hello, Tara.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
There you are.
Well, thanks.
We haven't come to order yet, so we just got you ready. This is really shaped up nice up here.
Come out nice.
Feels like I'm in a class, a lecture.
We're gonna be sitting, oh, that's where we're gonna be now. Is that for tomorrow night's meeting, I guess?
Oh, so is this going away?
Yeah, he's gonna put everybody on that thing, I guess. I thought originally, I thought that thing was going up there. I'm like, but I'm not sitting on a stage.
I'm glad to hear other people felt that way.
I was not a big fan of that one.
I like this table myself because we're all inclusive, but.
I like being able to see you.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't like the us versus them idea, you know?
No.
Have we heard from Pedro? Or is he just downstairs? Hear the pitter patter of little feet.
God, that was a really good service with Mikey on.
It was. Gave him a ride in the T.
I saw you go by Wayne's and I jetted in right at the end, right behind the other fire department.
Yeah.
The other town that came.
The pitter patter of little feet. How are you, Pedro? Happy Monday. Okay. I'll call the meeting to order of the ZAC committee meeting at 5:06 on the 11th of September. And to start off with, I would like to have a moment of silence for the events of 22 years ago. Thank you. Let's not forget. Okay, any changes to the agenda? Okay, I'll accept
There
the
are no
agenda.
changes.
Excuse me?
There are no changes. We had to use the mics.
Then I'll accept the agenda as presented. Well, any new business?
No.
No. Okay, Tara, you're it.
So I just want to note really quick, Mr. Chair, that the information that Tara has been working with us on
Yeah,
has been integrated into the outline, like I mentioned earlier, and it's
Right.
amendment number 3.
3. Okay, should we jump to 3 to start with? Go out of order, just that way we don't keep her hanging on the hook?
Sure.
Okay. Tara, we're starting off with amendment number 3.
So, the big substantive change in there was to add the density bonuses, but because I think your next step is to go to the planning board, you probably want to give a look at each section, right?
That would be helpful.
So do you want to just kind of start with, the paragraph A purpose and see if everybody's okay with that wording by now?
Yeah, let's just go down through it and we'll speak up if we have concerns.
Well, I don't hear any concerns. So how about B, applicability?
So I just have one comment about that first paragraph that says the
Mhm.
planning board may grant a conditional use permit. So we don't do conditional use permits, like we don't have a process for that.
No, we don't.
No.
No.
Isn't there something? There's nothing in your zoning yet on that?
We do a kind of like a non-committal scope of the project before they apply. We do that.
Because you have it in your definitions already. I did look at that, and you have it in your inclusionary zoning piece. So I did make sure that you already had the structure for that. So I hear that you don't get many opportunities to use it. The process is the same statute as the process for a subdivision or site plan. So you're just overlaying the two when you review a flexible zoning subdivision. You're granting subdivision approval and a conditional use permit. That's really all it means.
Okay.
And you already have a definition. I did check for that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll start with applicability. As I read it, when did we go to 4 acres in the rural zone?
Well, I was in my notes from the last meeting.
That's incorrect. It's 2 acres in the rural zone.
It's still 2.
Still 2.
So.
Well, no, this is saying that you can,
Well,
you can have
hold
flexibility.
on for a minute, Tara. If we're looking to make things so we can have more affordable, to go from a 2 acre to a 4 acre shoots us in the foot.
Yeah, no, you're misunderstanding what it says. This is saying that you, Mr. Applicant, need to have 4 acres to come apply for a flexible zoning subdivision.
Okay, so you may be able to say a minimum of 4 acres for this to apply.
Well, it says
As it
minimum
reads
acreage.
now, it's going to be 4 acres per dwelling unit.
No, it doesn't say that. It says minimum acreage.
The minimum acreage for a flexible zoning subdivision shall be.
It doesn't say anything about per dwelling unit or lot size. This is how many
So
acres you
basically-
need to come apply.
So basically, you're thinking of doubling the 1 acre in the rural residential to 2 acres. And
No,
to,
we're saying that and this came out of the last meeting, where some towns make you have 5 lots to apply for some kind of cluster. The discussion at the last meeting was to let somebody do it who's only creating 2 homes. So that you can have basically 2 homes on a lot if it's double the minimum acreage.
well, that part's fine,
But
but
2 homes on the same lot?
yes,
Yes.
and
That's
that was
what
put out about 20 years ago.
That's what this is saying.
Well, I think that language needs to be cleaned up and made a lot more upfront about it.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't do any good for me to say it's in the model and the dozens that have been written from it. If you don't understand it, we'll do something different.
It's not that I don't understand it. I just want everybody else to understand it too.
Well, that's why we do these things with groups, right? So
Correct.
I will tweak the word in there. I'll just turn it around. An applicant must have a minimum of blah, blah, blah acres in order to apply for approval for a flexible zoning subdivision, right?
Yeah, I think that sounds a little clearer.
Okay. I'm writing down what I said because I'll forget.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So it will now say an applicant must have a minimum of, and we'll fill in those in order to apply for flexible zoning subdivision.
Okay, sounds good.
Just so I'm clear on it, if the rural zone, then if you've got 4 acres, you can put up 2 houses.
You can
Yeah.
apply to put up two houses. Yeah, you got to get planning board approval.
And I imagine the thing for that I know Tom Hoops will be pushing hard against is he will want to have, if someone wants that residual, that second home to stand on this, that it must be able to stand for subdivision. I don't personally agree with that because this is your castle. If you want to have two homes on your parcel, knock yourself out.
Yeah, this is really to get away from that. This is to say what another thing that he might also like, cluster them away from the wetland or the steep slope or the important wildlife habitat.
Well, we're 25 feet away from the wetland as we stand.
Hmm.
With
So-
anything.
But that's one of the goals of this flexible zoning. Is to leave more open space.
And the house, the second house on that lot would not have its own deed to the land.
No,
Or its own septic or anything. It would have
it could
to,
have its own septic. Can have its own well. It can have everything else. It can have its own driveway.
Or it can share all of those.
Or it could, exactly. Yep,
but it has to,
exactly.
does it have to conform to the setbacks that we have set in place for wherever that?
Well,
lot is
the only
located?
setbacks we have will be the front, sideline and rear setbacks, which now are 20 feet. But you'll also probably have a minimum of a 20-foot setback between the dwellings.
That was my question, was if there's a property setback from.
That
dwelling.
comes from the fire department. Like,
So do you want to put a 20-foot minimum separation distance in there then?
Well, do we, I just, before we jump into that, because doesn't that show up later in this document? Maybe we can work our way to that.
I don't think so. I don't remember putting that in yours. Some towns do that. Some towns use 10 feet. I kind of think 20 is a better fit for us.
and that would also be with non-combustible siding, like a cement siding.
Right.
Well,
it
we
only-
don't get into those details in the
you don't.
zoning.
You don't, but in section D, later on, which talks about the arrangement and dimensions of lots, you do get into the ability for the planning board to basically make some changes, I think is how I read it.
Right.
With me, because I've only had this document in front of me for about 15 minutes, so.
Yeah, that would be the right place to put it, but we'll put in a 20-foot minimum separation distance.
Yeah, so D3 talks about may approve reduced interior setbacks, front setbacks may be reduced from the road. And planning board may require greater than the usual required setbacks from abutting properties and existing roads and or vegetative screening.
So we'd add it to that first sentence then in number 3. Is that what you're thinking? May approve reduced interior setbacks. However, there'll be a minimum separation distance of 20 feet between buildings.
Looks like that where it should belong.
Yeah.
So who owns the land then?
Whoever has.
Generally a homeowners association.
So dwelling A,
Somebody
may.
that wants to build a flexible planning subdivision, gonna come in here with 10 acres. Says they can put 5 houses up, they're in the right zone. Stick them together, because that's part of what we're looking for, clustered more clustered housing. And those other 4 houses are gonna sit on that first guy's.
It wouldn't, as if it's a 4-acre lot, there would be a
That's
minimum.
what you're saying, right? So they are gonna sit on that other guy's.
That is one of the options from what I, from what
Plus
I'm.
from
gathering.
that close together on.
4 people don't wanna own the land.
That goes on all over the place.
Yeah.
It does?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's usually a homeowners association that owns the land.
We didn't hear you, Tara. I'm sorry.
It's usually a homeowners association that owns the land.
Correct. Yep. We talked about that.
So I'd actually like to point out another issue with the driveways. So I know that the highway department, fosters shared driveways, but their regulations currently only allow for one driveway permit per lot. So we would have to address that with Scott.
Yep. Also, I think we've got to be careful about that. is so ever you want a way to have neighbors hate one another is share a driveway. If we can avoid that at all costs, I
And
think
it's
we
only in
should.
those kind of one-off
Because
instances
it's
that,
usually been a wetland issue that you can only
Yeah.
get one
right,
cut or something like that. But I think shared driveways, we don't want to go down that road because
right.
it's not healthy between
Not as
neighbors.
normal practice, no.
No,
But so that will need to get addressed and I will make note of that.
Well, I think that we talked about that in the master plan too, that didn't the master plan encourage the planning board to change the driveway regulations so that shared driveways would be allowed?
It could have been in there.
Yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
That
I
does-
remember reading and talking about it before, that the master plan recommended shared driveways, but the driveway regulations had a barrier to it.
Right.
and
So I
that,
wouldn't, I guess I wouldn't take it out. I would fix the driveway regulations.
Hmm.
And you write them. They're the planning board's driveway regulations. I mean, not some of you, not all of you, but
Just so I'm understanding this right, so he brought up a very good point. So we're gonna allow the people to cluster the houses that close together, even on a 10, if there was a 10-acre parcel. And he had said, you know, put the house on the first acre, you can cluster those houses around that first house, even though.
oh, absolutely you could. Absolutely.
that's the point of this.
Yeah, that's what the gist of this is to, bang up a few acres and leave the rest of it natural.
And actually stick it on a 10-acre lot, stick a sixth house because we're giving them density. bonus. So it's even more than what you think.
And there actually have been a lot of people contacting the office inquiring about things like this.
Of course, because they stand to make a fortune off of
People-
it. Why wouldn't?
Right.
Well, the thing,
Or it's the parents.
Look at it
are
only
looking
that
for
way.
That second house.
you're going to get people in housing that couldn't afford housing.
Because it's
That's the real root of why we should be doing this. Not that someone's going to make a fortune, because that's not the thing. We need to get young people in homes. I feel that's something we really need to provide for.
And it's an opportunity for, say, the parents to allow, their children to be able to
Right.
get that second.
Live on the
home, sort
homestead,
of.
shall we say.
Yeah, yep.
But every street, we gotta admit that every street is gonna become much more dense. And the wooded area is gonna become more wooded.
Right. It's only allowed in 2
Houses
zones.
are gonna wind up all on the street. They're not gonna wind up.
Well, we can zone setbacks to get them off the street and get them back a ways.
Right.
I'm a big fan of pushing a house back.
Yep.
You've been my subdivision and everything's 200 feet back. I mean, I like the back part of it.
Right. And like you said, that can be required as. part
Right.
of-
But you're taking this, right? I'm feeling the same way.
Scott just made a good point, though. He's right. A lot of the younger families, nobody can afford to get into a house right now. It's insanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we must by law provide for affordable housing. So
One way to do it.
pick away.
That I've been hearing a lot of in the last couple meetings, oh no, the sky's gonna fall if we do this kind of comments, and you need to be aware, and this is why I sent you some Excel sheets a couple months ago that there's 234 municipalities in New Hampshire. They don't all fill out the state survey of land use regulations, but of those that did, 177 have some kind of clustering, and 70 of those have some kind of density bonus. And you simply have not seen the response to that you're talking about, of like every lot and every street's all of a sudden going to be dense. I have towns where I've written this years ago that, haven't had one cluster development. It's just something that you're allowing for the developer willing to do it.
But there are also a lot of towns that don't even have zoning, right? In New Hampshire.
There aren't a ton, there's a handful.
Most towns have zoning.
Yeah, there's only a handful.
Could you use your microphone? Because when you talk, it won't show up on the recording.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Got the okay?
It's only a handful. I mean, I think I had them correct the state's inventory of zoning. I think they did, that they were over counting the number without zoning because they were counting some that had limited zoning, like just a floodplain overlay or downtown or something. There's really only a handful that don't have any zoning.
Well, I think, I hear what you're saying, that, we should use that as a benchmark. But I think we should also take Alton as a unique example, given sort of the what we have here with the lake and things like that, because you're comparing us to a lot of, there's something called the Dartmouth Atlas, which I gotta believe you know about, right? The Dartmouth Zoning Atlas, where they put, St. Anselm's put together the atlas of all the zoning for the different, towns and townships in New Hampshire. And we don't look like most of them. Like, a lot of them are in the middle of the woods in the, nowhere land. And I hate to say it that way, but it seems that way.
But still, 177 of 234 reported having clustering. That kind of means almost everybody does by now. And we don't see it used a lot. It's too bad. As a planner, I would love to see it used more, because it does decrease the cost, and as was put a few minutes ago, kind of junks up less of the land. So in our towns that have scenic views of the lake and mountains and so forth, that's a pretty important economic piece to keep the scenery and not have it all look like one big subdivision.
I think I kicked my dead horse enough.
So we're kind of on the density section anyway by now, I think. And I put in the big thing that I think you guys need to talk about is the density bonus. You kind of struggling with that in the last couple of meetings. So in number 3, I drew out some lots and acreage, and this is what I thought isn't a lot, but it hopefully would be enough to motivate somebody to do this. That's what we want to do with the density bonus is say, if you do the things that are good for the community, we'll let you build more homes. So I just kind of throw out there 20% for the smaller homes, 20% for conservation, and 40 if you're doing both. I think I want to add, I'd like to recommend that we add a size for the 2-car garage. So that doesn't get abused. I just wrote another one of these for another town earlier today, and 480 square feet is what I had in mind.
That's 24 by 24.
That 24 by 24.
Yeah.
It's 20, it's 20 by 24. So it leaves room for like a walkway and mudroom kind of thing.
I'd like to pop that to 24 square, because
Yeah.
if you've ever tried to put a pickup truck in a 20 foot deep garage, it's not optimum. And you need,
Okay, I went out and measured my garage. But so we can make it 576, then that's 24 by 24.
So.
Well, you should put something in, because
yeah.
you could have a whole nother 1,200 square feet with a workshop in it, and somebody's saying it's
Yeah,
a garage.
you don't want to see a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot garage.
Right.
So, well, some of us might.
I know.
So on number 3, the only couple of grammatical things, the density bonuses may be granted by the planning board, because you say they will be granted, almost sounding like it's automated.
Yeah, no, that's what my suggestion was. You can make it be may, but I think if you're gonna say may, then you need to talk about what are those other criteria where we always want to see the developer have a predictable process, right?
Yeah.
If they buy this land and they follow these rules, they get to build this many houses, not have it be subjective. So
Okay.
if it says may, what are the criteria that we're gonna put in there that get them that bonus? Because we're trying to say, if they do the 1,200 square feet houses, they get this bonus. And if they do the 10 acres of conservation land, they get the bonus. Why might they not?
The only question I have with regards to that is I see the criteria, yet there is no parameters as to the zoning, planning official to determine what things will imply for be granted or granting the benefit of the extra unit in the dwelling other than the size of the lot, but there are other things that are going to be impacted within the town. And it kind of does not reflect what will be the criteria that the planning will be using to make that determination.
Well, this would be saying that the planning board would approve this 20% density bonus if the homes are no larger than 1,200 square feet, or if there's the 10 acres of conservation land, or 40% if there's both. Those are the criteria this is proposing.
Okay, then under A, density bonus at 20% will be granted to flexible dentist. Yeah. I just had to talk to somebody about a dentist. I get dentistry in my mind. Density subdivisions with the covenants limiting homes, should those be permanent covenants? Because can't covenants be voted on and changed by the association later?
Yeah, that's a good catch.
Where are you at? I'm sorry.
3A.
3A, okay.
So you want to change where it says covenants, you want to change what wording in there?
I
Sure.
have no. I just did, it
Yep.
seemed like
Just,
it was
yeah.
something that they could then vote on and say, all right,
can
well,
change
now
it.
you can have that.
Well, it's something like a
2,000 square
permanent
foot
covenant or
garage.
something like that. You know what I mean?
Restricted, yeah.
They shouldn't change once they've been recorded by this.
R is a heck of a wordsmith. I think we
Yeah.
are wordsmith.
How do you
No,
word?
I just did what you said. I wrote permanent in front of covenant.
There we go.
I think, yeah, that's a good catch, and I'll add it to the one I wrote earlier today. Thoughts on the rest of that?
The rest was all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, looks good.
You happy with the 20 and 40? You know, I drew it out and it just seemed to make sense of a little bit of a bonus without being make it kind of misaligned with the neighboring properties. Any comments on D, the arrangement and dimensions of lots? We would add the 20-foot minimum. We talked about adding the minimum separation distance in D3.
In terms of data for this, has anybody ever done a sort of financial assessment of what the tax increase could be from this and the actual?
well, let's put it this way, a
the
residential
financial-
subdivision is
financial
never a
burden could be
winning
for this.
proposition.
Nobody's done that?
Question on that same paragraph of arrangement and dimensions of lot. It says to the extent of practicable. So legally wise, doesn't that open a room for an attorney to say, well, we have some sort of wetland dimensioning that is creating an impossibility of us doing what we want to do and then trying to circumvent throughout it's not practicable. Wouldn't it be more suitable to say applicable on that area, but to us referring to what applies to the land?
Maybe I stay away from practical because in these kind of things, and use practicable because it's a little bit stronger, where we don't want to say to the extent feasible, because that could make the development too expensive. And then we've shot ourselves in the foot and upped the price, right? But if we say applicable, then that seems like a little too, like, who decides? I'm not following, I guess, how that's different. How it's different than practicable. The planning board still has to decide that they agree with the developer or not.
the way I see it is it will depend on the practicality of the availability of land and land resources that you have within a specific, well, the characteristic of the land in order to make a decision based on the provided criteria for approval from the planning board. And I see that if you set something that actually narrows the intended use, it might be a more clear path maybe to the planning to assess an approval on their end, rather than having to discuss it or argue it with somebody that would like to circumvent around the current conditions of the land.
So was your suggestion to replace practicable with applicable?
Yeah,
So what does the rest of the group think of that? The reason I have this in here at all is I had a developer in another town submit a cluster development that had high dry land in the back. And instead they wove the lots all interspersed with the wetlands in the front. And there was nothing in that ordinance that I could point to empower the planning board to make them not do it that way. So that's what I'm trying to do, is to say, you know, you don't do it like that. You concentrated on the high dry land.
got it. My fear on that is the fact of somebody having some conditions in the land that will impede, that will inhibit them to subdivide it and taking the benefit of this flexible zoning, and then trying to circumvent. And there are things that are outside of the hands of the town, like DES approvals for wetland protection and things like that. And then they think that it's going to be the town responsibility to maybe void out any of those requirements, and that's why.
Well, doesn't the language alone allow you to circumvent the intent of it? Right, because if someone had a lot that has 10 acres on it, they want to throw the 5 houses on it, plus of them, still keep their, or 4 houses, keep their own house in the backside of the lot. Right, they can throw up 8,000 square foot houses.
Yeah, but then they
There's
said,
nothing limiting them from doing that.
exactly, but it says practicable. So what is the practicality under whose person that
Well,
was?
wouldn't that be up to the developer? So if the developer came in and said he wanted to put up 4 houses that are huge,
Yeah,
get top dollar for them, and you know, the guy that owns the land can still keep his house up in the back of it. We just defeated the purpose of what we're trying to do. I wonder, I mean, I don't want to go backwards, and I know a lot of
Yeah.
people put up, but had anybody thought about saying you can, you know, because flexible zoning subdivision is a new category. We still have the regular stuff we've always been doing. That's not going away. Has anybody ever thought about just saying to do a flexible zoning subdivision, keeping all the other stuff as is, you have to have 1,200 square foot or less, or 1,200 plus the
2-car garage.
570 feet. So 1,800 or less, so whatever that adds up to.
and that was one of the things that I mentioned on the last meeting, that I think it will be beneficial to have some sort of limitations as far as land coverage, which will be, it will restrict even further the way that land is being used, and we don't have
Well, that as well, if that's,
no.
or has that been beaten to death?
Nope. No,
No, that's what we're here for, is to beat this.
this is the
up.
beating right here.
Scott, how many bedrooms can you get out of an average 1,200 square foot house?
You could probably get,
Really?
well, you could get 3 if they're
Tiny ones?
they're bread box bathrooms. Yeah, I mean, you could get 3. But
Can you think about how many 1,200 square foot ranches were built?
Yeah, isn't every ranch
3
about that
bedroom,
size?
you know, I mean,
after the war, like everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, and the little tiny capes.
But you
with
can
it.
still, so
Yeah.
you can still make it work. You could still get 1,200
Yeah.
square feet, get 3
It
bedrooms.
would be a 1-bath situation, most likely for 1,200 square feet.
Actually, you can do 2. I have seen layout that they have figured out. I mean,
I've done it. I've designed those.
Yep.
I've seen-
Plus, if they wanted a sprinkler, they could go down in the basement and make more living space there.
So that's why, I mean, it's just that the practicality of it, I mean, what will bring that to mind when you have a very senior designer that have seen many cases all around the country, and then he comes to Alton and see, oh, it's,
You know, I wouldn't mind
The
putting some
practicality.
maximum house sizes attached to this for the for the bonus stuff, you know?
Just for the bonus stuff, you said. Why don't
Well,
we just put it?
Well, you have it for the bonus now.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I really meant to say the whole thing.
Yeah.
That would
You
make
think a
sense.
blanket requirement of
Yeah.
under X amount?
But
of
I
square
think we ought to give a couple options. 1,200 square feet is a small home, but I don't think we ought to go that much bigger because we're now eliminating the try to keep the affordability factor.
Yeah.
Well, why not say 1,800 square feet inclusive of any garages?
Yeah, so they could build 1,800 foot.
That's
If
still,
you want to give up your garages and have a bigger, master bedroom, well, that's your decision, right?
All inclusive
1,800
1,800 and
point.
something square feet.
Would an
Correct.
1,800 square foot house be affordable? To the population we're trying to attract?
That's a big house.
It's a pretty good size house, yeah.
It's a pretty
yeah, it
good
is a
size.
pretty good size house. No, they're not going to hit the button, I don't think.
What's our
affordability.
Affordability.
That's
rate?
only if they give up the garage though, right? Because they can still have the 1,200 square. foot.
Garage is not cheap anymore. Well, hello.
Oh, they are not.
Yeah, an 1,800 square foot house, with just normal finishes, you're probably looking 4.5.
It's even not owning the land. We're not taking the.
Well,
land
you'll
out.
own some land, you'll own a portion of the land. You'll be
You're
vested,
buying into it. You're buying.
you'll be
yeah.
vested into it.
Just probably some town now anyhow. Probably find some crap that's less, but most of it's gonna be in that range.
A mobile home was just on the market for 225, and things of that nature. So, I mean,
I have seen actually around, I actually did a development enforcement that I fit a single car garage in a 26 or 24 dwelling 2-story, and I have 3 bedrooms above, master suite 12 by 14. The other 2 bedroom are 10 by 10s.
yeah, so
I mean, they're
just
small.
functional
bedrooms,
bedrooms,
but it's
but not
functional.
huge. Yeah.
And I provided laundry and things. So, I mean, you can fit it within even a footprint of 1,300 square feet. But I mean, again, we're trying to tackle a population that we're not gonna give him luxury, we're just gonna give him affordable living.
Right. Now, should we also, this jumped into my mind here, should we provide for freestanding single structures for single family resident? And should this be inclusive of
Duplexes,
a
multifamily.
condo? Right now you could have a multi-family house with up to 5 units, but it's going to 6. Am I understanding that?
Multifamily, yeah, that went to 6.
6.
Couple, 2,
Yeah.
3 years back.
Yeah. So you could have 6 in a multi-family structure.
We said that in C1 density, that it can be different kinds of dwelling units. My concern with, if we make it just about the smaller homes, and the planning board's recommendation that they talked a lot about when they were doing the master plan was to use it for that, but also for conservation and to concentrate development away from fields and wetlands and so forth. So they wanted to see it used for both goals.
Like I've said in the past, a single family home will impact damn near a whole acre by the time you do everything you need to do. And that's a lot.
But every builder that was, if they were gonna get into this for affordable housing, is gonna try to locate those houses as close as you can to the road.
Well,
Necessarily.
yeah,
No. why not?
No, they put them as close together, as close as they could to the septic, the well, all that. That's where I would think, right?
yeah.
They would
And then the
put
thing
'em-
about it is we got to remember that the gist of this will be roads will remain permanent ownership of the association. We don't want the town to have to own it because that's a huge expense to plow and maintain roads.
Oh,
In
it's-
terms of the concern about concentrating it near roads, in D3, we say the planning board may require greater than the usual required setbacks from abutting properties and existing roads and or require vegetative screening. So we've addressed that. That's one of the things the planning board asked as well, that you cluster it, but you don't see it when you're driving by it.
I like the size requirement idea. That's key. Size requirement's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then adding the garage in like that, giving them, is there a way to word that? Is there a way to word that correctly where it could be 12 or 1,300 square feet and then, you know, your garage can be X amount? What did you say it was 500 and something square? feet?
I was just gonna put 576 square feet in parentheses after where it says two-car garage.
Are you gonna, will there be something in there that states they can use that garage space as living space instead of a garage?
Is that what the,
Is that what you would?
is that what the consensus is there?
No, I think if you say you have a garage, you have a garage.
Yeah,
Oh, I-
that's what the intent was, but I'm asking if you're asking for it to be changed.
Okay. Oh, and then you had told
But
me
I-
it was like 404.
50,000. Yep. I think we're getting away from the affordability factor
Yeah,
if we allow that 1,800 square feet. So
So if they do away with the garage, there's that 500 something square feet, they are at 1,200 square feet. That's it.
Yep.
Right? Is
or
that the?
or
is
thir-
that the
12
way
or
I'm
13, whatever you just.
Whatever, yeah,
Right
whatever
now it
that
says
number
1,200,
is,
so
yeah.
we'll go with that.
Yeah, I think
But
we
they
run,
could still add on an accessory dwelling unit the way this is written.
Sorry, I was trying to.
And 30 by 40, if you did it that way versus 24 by whatever, it's, when you push them deeper, they're much more workable. You can get better things
Yeah.
in it,
yeah, we get the double loaded quarter,
right?
a little easier, more space.
So I'm not following whether I'm making another change out of all that discussion.
Yeah, I think we came all the way
The full
back
circle.
around and we want to limit the dwelling size to 1,200 square feet. And not including a garage, but a garage would be limited to 576 in addition to that 1,200 square feet of dwelling.
So to do this at all,
Yes, but only for this zoning category, flexible zoning subdivision.
well, how are you gonna get anybody to do it then? Like, are you still gonna have a density bonus?
Why do you need a bonus? I mean, can't you make money off of building 5 of these things?
Why are they gonna build smaller homes?
Who's
when
gonna
you
make,
can build bigger homes and charge more? You have to give a density bonus, so you're not gonna encourage them to do smaller homes.
That's my,
it gets an extra, it drives costs down. If you don't think a builder's gonna pass that along, you know, you want to be the best guy in town, so you want to squeak it out as quick as you can.
but if you think they would do it anyhow without the density bonus, why don't we do that?
But I don't think they would. They'd be doing it now. They'd be building smaller homes now if there was a market without incentives. We've seen we need to put 20%, you may find isn't enough, but we've seen we have to put incentives in or we don't see smaller homes being built.
All right, I think I'm right. I agree with you, right? So if somebody had 10 acres, they can put 5 homes on it now, whatever size they want to. Right?
Well, that's a townhouse group
Right,
is what you're reading down here.
No, not in this, just in our regular zoning.
Right. So
Right. House, I thought.
right. But you have to think, okay, is that going to be an all frontage lot? Then if it was an all frontage lot that was 2 acres deep, so you could, and 10 acres wide, you could dice it up in 2-acre lots and use the street as access. This is probably not going to fly that way because you want it interior, so we don't see it.
Yeah, you're never
So-
gonna see that kind of frontage.
Right. You're not going
See.
to, and those frontages are
Forces them to
almost
go
not
back.
available.
Yeah, it forces them to go back.
And that's
I
been one of my complaints about the RR zone is just not much of accessibility to that zone.
So then your argument, so from a density bonus, we should allow 2 more houses. 40%, no matter what,
I didn't say that.
or 80%, right?
Whatever,
So I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
that's what we have to hammer out here.
Shouldn't we try to
Right.
all,
I have one town that lets you double it.
we should create, I'm with you, but also try to maintain the look and feel of Alton. And if we're throwing,
You can do that through design review.
but we're also maintaining a 2-acre, by doing this, the new one, we're maintaining 2 acres per house without the density bonus. But we can screw around with where they're located.
Yeah,
Right,
but,
that's what we're saying.
but we want to give something to people to use this process. You know, I like the idea of putting some, you know, what do I say, solar panels, something like that. That was squelched last week, and that's fine, you know, I mean, but I just would like to see energy efficiency because that's something we're all looking down the pipe at. you know?
You know what? I take it back. I think I'm with you, right? So if we can force a builder to do this, take the density bonus, all of a sudden we're getting 6 affordable units instead of 5. Maybe we're not going to get the number of builders that to do this anyhow, because they're probably going to make more money doing it the other way.
Probably.
But you know what? If we can get, a handful of builders to do that and not get everybody to do that, that's great.
I don't think you'd see a mad dash for it because,
No.
the lots and accessibility and things of this, there's just so much to the steep slopes. You're just not going to be able to grab a piece of land and say, okay, because that by the time you get the wetlands and the slopes out of that, you have 100-acre lot, you may only have 65 acres. So that's your density factor, not the rest of it.
Right, because we've had that inclusionary zoning ordinance in place since 2012. And it hasn't been worked on once. So the number of people that are gonna, start coming in the door to take advantage of this, will probably be a few,
Yep. And I think to show that we've done it, because if we don't do it, then the state could jam it down our throat if we don't provide for it. We've got to provide for this, whatever word we're going to call it, because other words have been squished hard. But I think it's something that we really need to move towards in this day and age because of the cost of things. And, the school children are on a declining pattern right now. I mean, that could change, but, there are less and less kids going into our schools because it used to be 1.2 children per home. Tara, you might have an updated on that. That might even be lower than that. The average house used to be 1.2. If I had a 20 lot subdivision, 20 times 1.2, that was what they figured would impact the school. So
is the consensus to rewrite C3 so that you get this 20% bonus just by doing it, and you have to have a small house, and then if you do this conservation, you'll get an additional 20%. Is that right?
I think that's where we're going.
That's where I'm at, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got it.
And a question to the board, are we planning to further control these things with probably lot coverages to prevent from like somebody with deep pockets coming and just boom, throwing that?
But we've just said they can only be 1,200 square feet in order to use this provision. That's what the committee wants the change to be. So that's managing lot coverage already.
So if somebody finds a 100-acre lot that's got enough buildable space on it, they throw 60 houses on it in the left corner of that entire lot. But at least we maintain the other 82 acres.
And you have to deal with water,
I know. that's
water
all-
discharge, and that's all that stuff.
We might have 60 houses in the corner of a 100-acre lot.
And what we should look at a lot of times, the campground over there, Turtle Corral, they did a lot of their own small little detention ponds per lot. If you remember that. Were you on the board? You were on the board then? That was kind of a neat concept. Everybody had their own little depression that their water drained into, and because it was very sandy soil there.
Yeah.
But that type of stuff is great because groundwater recharge, that's what we want to do.
So then let's circle back to D and see, are you still good with that? With this change?
We haven't really talked about accessory dwelling units. Can we really possibly fit an accessory dwelling unit into this type of plan?
We can, because it can be an addition.
But then
I put it in there as number 4 in C.
If there's a maximum of 1,200 square feet allowed, then they wouldn't be able to do the addition anyway. Right? They would.
Well,
1,200.
they would, because that accessory dwelling unit would be in addition to the 1,200.
No.
No, it's per item, it will be considered differently. And that will also, which actually lead, how about townhouses, people doing where there is no.
Is there a way for us to word it so that it's 1,200 square foot maximum and there are no other dwellings allowed, no accessory dwellings, I should say, allowed, or no other?
I couldn't think of a way you could do that under state law, because if these are single family homes, they're single family homes as far as the ADU statute, which requires you to allow accessory dwelling units to either be in the building or attached to the building. That's why I said it could be in addition to the 1,200 square feet.
Putting a 1,200 square foot maximum on this realistically means nothing, considering they could apply to have accessory dwellings added on or whatever, additions or whatever added on.
Is that not a good thing if you now have
I'm just
two
asking,
dwelling units?
it was just a question, that's all. I just want to understand it the right way.
I don't think it doesn't mean a thing. I think it means that the primary dwelling unit is 1,200 square feet, but they're not prevented, because you can't under state law, from adding on an accessory dwelling unit. Don't you have a size limit on your accessory dwelling units?
Yeah.
700 square feet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a percentage of the main home.
Can there be language that if in the event somebody decide to go with an ADU, they have to have a common area of the dwelling that has to be shared amongst the two?
No, that wouldn't comply with state law.
Yeah, that's no longer the accessory dwelling. That's
Common area.
Yeah, it's communal living. That wouldn't comply with the state ADU law.
This kind of shoots us in the foot a little
Why,
bit.
why do you say that? I mean,
Well-
to me, it would be a great thing if they built these and then put on ADUs so that it's even more affordable units.
if we're putting a 1,200 square foot maximum limit on a dwelling unit, that they can't put the addition on, because now it's.
She just said they can.
1,600 square foot.
She just said they
If
can.
it's a single family home, you have to allow it under state law.
Well, tell you what, we'll make it
That's how
so
they were granted this
bonus.
bonus.
That's right.
That's how they got it, was through this limitation. So they can't just pull a fast one on us and next year go put in, a 1,200 square foot addition on every dwelling.
Good point.
Well, you don't allow ADUs to be 1,200 square feet.
700 then. It would
Yeah,
be
well, now we're up to
700.
almost, we're up to 1,900 square feet, and then
So
that doesn't do us what
the
we,
accessory dwelling unit shall have no more than 1,500 square feet of gross total floor area.
Well, that's pretty big. So why not make it smaller in this?
I will buy one of those.
700.
You can make it smaller.
I'm just happy to be Italian, so I'll have the kitchen, so.
One bathroom. and 1,200. One bathrooms over the other side.
I think we ought to contact attorney on this, because I feel this is a real important,
It's no longer
Thank-
affordable at 1,900 square
Right.
feet.
no,
Like what Tara's saying, you can't restrict, you can't restrict that ADU. They have that right. So
okay, well,
Needs
what
to
if we
somehow-
design say the lots can only be so wide and stuff like this, and then they can't meet setbacks? Because I really hate to see this muddied up with going to the damn near 3,000 square foot homes. That's not what we have in mind for this project.
But it is what we have.
Yeah,
Then you're gonna look like some new development in Massachusetts, for God's sakes.
yeah.
That's what we have, right? That's
Where whoever owns the lot itself, right? The houses get bought, the land itself, whether it be owned by one person or owned by a group of people, like an association, you said, right?
Yep.
Is there wording allowable where it's owned by an association that you can't, like, if you don't own the land, you can't put an addition on the house, right? If you don't own the land that it's sitting on?
No, you can, because
Can?
your house is already on land.
No, I get that. But if they
It's
don't
almost
own-
like a condo type of status,
Yes.
you know,
Couldn't add
you
on
own the land
okay.
under your footprint. and out actually out to your drip edge. So that's where you usually own your land.
Yeah.
So if you put an addition on it, you just increase that footprint. And everybody's going to be probably laid out a lot. Like if you had a mobile home park, they're 10,000 square feet. So that's going to be diced up. And we've talked about the size of the lots.
Yeah.
Quotations. So I think we can meet that in that area. You see what I'm saying?
So we're limiting the lot dedicated to each dwelling, and that would, by nature, would limit their ability to grow it out.
That's not a formal bound, but it's an area in which you've purchased, and you have the right to that area. As well as common area for all the back out, you have a right to use that to do nothing
The rest
with,
of the land.
or
Yeah.
just, walk in it in the wintertime or hunt or whatever you want to do.
Right, so you're,
About-
those would be in covenants, though, not.
Right,
not your
right.
conditions.
Right, and I don't know if we have the ability to, we talked about that permanent covenant earlier, or
Mhm.
whatever it was, required
Yeah.
covenant. Can we have a list of required covenants that must accompany the approval and therefore the deed?
Well, you can, we do that all the time with roads, but you can't require a covenant that's contrary to RSA 674-72 that says you have to allow accessory dwelling units up to 750 square feet. What would be the problem with saying that in a flexible zoning subdivision, they're limited to 750 square feet, and run that by the attorney?
It looks like section E2 says that the planning board can, on the undeveloped area, which is what we're talking about, right? If it's going to be added to. It's to be held in common, and all comments, deed restrictions, organizational provisions, et cetera, need to be approved. Where did I see it? Established prior to final planning board approval.
Yeah, that's not talking about the land, that's not talking about the yard of each individual home, that's talking about the open space they're clustered away from.
So there's no actual way to limit that. There is none.
I
Right?
don't know, I mean, I think,
Now, do we, off of
I
that,
would ask your town attorney, I don't see, the way I read the statute, you could limit it to 750 square feet, but not prohibited, but there's something to ask the town attorney.
Tara, if we went at this and said, under like 3 for density bonuses, that, 80% of the houses have to be affordable housing and be available to people at or whatever, 200 times the, or whatever the right number is of the poverty level. Can that be done? is-
Yes, we were deliberately trying to get away from that because nobody's using your
we
affordable housing section now, because that's a lot of red tape to manage incomes.
tried using that previously, the last time we got our eyes blackened by trying to do something like this.
I mean, you have that in your zoning already, but nobody's using it. So we were trying to get away from it and get away from a scenario where the developer has to monitor tenant incomes or buyer incomes.
My point is, we tried to use the income approach, the Belknap County median income. We tried to use that, and then everybody came at us with like Section 8. It's all Section 8 housing, and that's not what this is, but.
And I don't think, I mean, there's a huge difference in the level of community support, voter support generally, for whether you are talking about affordable housing or just giving a developer flexibility.
All right, so Tara, what was your question that you wanted me to ask town council?
What sounded, I heard somebody there say you wanted to ask town council about accessory dwelling units and whether you indeed had to allow them. I read the statute as saying you do, but.
And
that's a question.
I think that was the whole purpose of it.
Can we restrict a smaller size or something like that as a part of this program?
Yeah, so within
Yeah,
the,
750 square feet, you can go down that low.
right, you could have no more than the
Still
15,
1,950
no more than the
square feet.
1,500, but you can't restrict things. You can't make it be less than 750 square feet.
Maybe,
So max is
maybe should
15.
we,
And then there are a couple other criteria in between that, depending upon, you know,
Because we-
floor space and
we're,
things.
we're working at 1,200 square feet for the primary.
Yeah.
And so another 750, we're saying, can we make that smaller?
No, that's the smallest you can go on the state law.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You can't be
You
less
have
than
to go
that.
Smaller, oh.
That was done with the purview of the requirements.
For the in-law
For the
apartment.
building
Yeah.
code, bedroom sizes and
Yeah,
things like that to
okay.
conform to the code later.
Could we have a different restriction on the size of the house if they
That's
had an ADU?
No, because we are allowing the house in the first place.
The thing about it is 20 years from now, someone can add that ADU to it.
Yeah.
Mom and dad now got old and
Right.
Both of
So
Well, I see to be not necessarily a devil's advocate, but a planner. I'm not following why that's a bad thing. That's just more affordable housing. The more people that add ADUs on, the more affordable housing you have.
So we're gonna have to amend the ADU ordinance as well, because it says accessory dwelling units shall not be permitted with multiple single-family dwellings attached to each other, such as townhouses or manufactured housing.
Yeah,
So-
these aren't attached. That's why I referenced that section, right?
Under, somebody built a 1,200 square foot
I don't
house,
think it's that bad, but I think.
put an RDU on the back of it. Could they use that all as a house and not use the RDU as an RDU,
ADU.
ADU?
I'm sorry, what was the question, Mark?
So someone builds a 1,200 square foot house.
Yeah.
Sticks 750 square feet on the back of it for an ADU. Telling everybody that that's how it's gonna be used. Right? Moves in there and their parents die. The
There
next
it
day,
is.
the next day, can they use that 750 as part of the house? No?
No, it's a separate dwelling unit.
Right, because gotten some approval
But
for
they
that.
will-
But let's be realistic.
Yeah.
It's an enforcement issue like anything else that you put in your zoning.
And they could say mom and dad are coming to live and they never show up and they've just built it anyway. You know, I mean, he can't say whether they show up or not. He says, okay, let's allow them under the
And I
code.
cannot attest whether they are their parents or not either.
Yeah, and you're not going to be there on Saturday night to see who's there.
Some of us won't be there on a Friday because we don't work on Friday.
That's right.
Could we incorporate any language that says that any flexible density subdivision granted approval because of the reduced square footage home will be limiting that in perpetuity, that square footage in perpetuity?
But I thought you wanted it all to be limited to the 1,200. That's what I had written down, that you want somebody to only be able to use the flexible zoning if they limit it to 1,200. So that's all of them already. So I think that is the question for your attorney is,
Well, so for that, based on that information that you have just provided, we will also grant a flexible zoning property with an addition of 1,200 square foot, complying with the RSA for ADUs. So that's how much we're gonna limit an ADU square footage. That's what you're saying.
I was saying that you could limit the ADU addition to 750 square feet, but since there's concern about allowing ADUs, then I think you should ask your town attorney if they can go with their reading of the statute rather than mine.
Jess, just talk to the attorney and say, what can we do to, I mean, you know, the gist we're trying to achieve here. See if he's got a rabbit in the hat or something.
Can we limit also those flexible zoning houses to not have a full basement and just limit it to having crawl spaces?
The 1,200 square feet doesn't count the basement unless they finish it. When we say gross total floor area, that's the finished space.
Yeah, but who prevents them from having an 8-foot basement and then finishing that?
Well,
Again, that's an enforcement issue. Anything in your zoning, you could ask the same question.
Isn't square footage, when you calculate it for code, if you've got a walkout basement, you have to include that as part of your square footage.
That is correct.
So, but if it's a fully buried basement,
you can count it if you
Sprinkler.
create a well system to egress out of any bedroom.
So building code issues and property tax issues and zoning issues are all different. When we use gross total floor area in zoning, it's typically the definition you'd get if you Googled it, which is measured from the outside walls, the finished floor area, but not in counting like an unfinished attic or basement. So they can't finish the attic and basement and still have 1,200 square feet. But they, in my mind, they could have, till you guys didn't like it, they could have put an ADU in the basement or attic.
No,
Well, we've certainly opened up
kind of
some
one.
questions.
We have, but you know, I guess for me, in my perspective of this, you know, if you're looking at a 1,200 square foot footprint of a house, you know, that's okay. You know, so they finish the basement. Good for them.
Put a man
you know?
cave.
Yeah, you know, I mean, good for them, but you've limited that footprint, you know, so that you don't have this McMansion.
Yeah, and personally, I'm not a big fan of crawl spaces because for another 4 feet, you have something real. Because to put your mechanicals and everything else in a 4-foot crawl space, it really stinks.
I have a crawl space and I hate it.
Hmm.
Hate it.
That's the idea.
So let me work with Jessica to frame some questions for the town attorney, because I just heard another one. And that would be, if we limit it to a 1,200 square foot footprint, or 1,776 square foot footprint counting a garage, how do we deal with 674-72 that says you have to allow internal or attached ADUs? I think that's the question for the attorney that we need to ask.
Because I just feel we're trying to hit a nerve with this thing, and then to get slammed with the ADU, that really just gives us a black eye. I mean, it's
I keep hearing you say that, but I'm still not following why it wouldn't be even better if they added ADUs to these.
Well,
Because at
that,
1,900 square feet, the house is no longer affordable for the normal
and then you
person.
had 576 for 2-car garage.
mhm.
Because it's 2 units, right? It's the home with an ADU.
You can have the 1,200 plus the 2-car garage. So that's 1,976. Now you add another 750 to it.
And then also we start getting in the outside of the master plan, because it will not represent what the community have anticipated it is valuable to them.
Yeah, or the objective of this
No.
committee right now.
Right. I mean,
Mhm.
So, what if it was an internal, I mean, this is things we'll have to find out, bounce off the town attorney, but you'd be all right if it was in the attic or basement, right?
If they finish a basement or something like that, you'd like.
On top of that, it will limit even further the amount of the size of the ADU, because now you are within the footprint of this already built structure, and you're limiting them. You are still granting what the state RSA will require, but you limit the amount. Otherwise, again, we get into, I mean, the whole purpose, it defeat the purpose, because we get back again to these 3,000 square foot structures that
Mhm.
are the intent of this.
and
For a
that-
lot of people, being able to have an ADU makes it affordable, because that's income that they can pay their mortgage with. So let's ask the town attorney how we deal. Can we make it be internal by limiting the footprint to 1,200 square feet? Can we kind of force that workaround for the ADU statute?
Yeah, the trip up with the saying that the footprint, if you said, you know, 1,000 square foot footprint, that's a 24 by 40. Okay, I'm going to build 2 stories at 24 by 40. Now we've lost it. So it's got to almost be a combination of total square footage.
Yep.
Footprint in the wording somehow.
Well,
creating-
let's see what they can help us with.
the attic truss would be probably the cheapest way to achieve that extra space.
Yeah,
but then you're usually working with older people. Well, then now they gotta go up a flight of stairs, so that's gonna shoot that in the foot.
Right.
So why don't you take a look at section E so that then we can kind of know what our homework is and you can go on to your other amendments.
Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we wanna, go ahead, Tara.
So we've got a think couple of changes to make and something to try to brainstorm with the town attorney on.
And Jess will
So
talk to you about.
so it sounds like one more meeting before these go to the planning board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have October 17th meeting scheduled.
So,
If we don't have tuck something in between there, and I see it.
right, so I kind
space.
of wanted to throw some, are we ready to talk meeting dates?
I had October 16th as one we penciled in at some point.
All right, so the September 25th meeting that we had scheduled, I need to reschedule that. I have a meeting that night that I have to attend that was not on my calendar when we made this meeting.
I'm sorry.
Cancel it.
It's budget season. I bet that might have something to do with it.
And I had double booked myself, so that worked well.
Perfect, there we go.
And then we had the next one is October 16th. It sounds like that's the night before your planning board meeting.
So originally, we proposed this October 17th for the ZAC committee to present to the planning board. It doesn't, it's not necessary to do it in October. We could do it in November, and that would still give us enough time,
So,
according to, you know, the
Public
legal,
hearing and
those
what
legal
have you.
deadlines, to meet and make our first meeting. And if we had to do a second meeting, you know, all that, we would still have enough time. So if we don't have available dates to get everything wrapped up by the 17th, because all of this needs to go to the town attorney
yeah, so he can,
for that.
yeah.
So I don't know
So
if that's
do we want to have a
time
meeting
crunch
night
or
on the
not.
17th?
that's the question. Do we want to have it on November 21st, or do we want to do it October 17th?
With the planning board.
Like to,
Yeah, correct, with the planning board.
well, let's do the planning board for November 21st. Let's take the pressure
Because we
off.
can.
We can, yeah. But do we want to have a meeting? You think we're going to have our ducks in a row by then? Because it seems like every time we have a meeting, we
Well,
had
by November, we're
questions.
gonna have to by November 21st, otherwise it's,
that done,
nothing's happening.
right? Yeah,
So we're keeping October 17th.
That's
Yes,
that's a regular planning board meeting, isn't it?
So we're gonna present, I think the consensus was moving that to the November meeting.
okay, so, yeah, well, we already have a ZAC meeting scheduled for October 16th.
Right, that's what I was saying, 5 to 7 on the 16th, so maybe that's still good.
Okay,
Yep, you have it too, you said.
Yeah.
really?
I have it as well.
Okay,
It's a hat trick.
and that's at
October
5, right?
16th?
Yeah,
I have that down as a ZAC meeting.
well, that's what
Yeah.
we agree with you.
Okay, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
we do too.
Too many committees, Scott.
I know.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll keep that, October 16th.
And that gives us kind of a deadline to work this out and get back to you.
And do we have something else in September that we can work
Something in
with?
between.
Or first part of October, like October 2?
what about you, Tara? Do you have any other available dates?
So the 25th of September is not good for you, right, Jess?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll get that
I
out.
don't have anything in September. Not even Saturdays and Sundays. But looking at October,
How's October 2 look?
that's good.
Let's see.
What, October 2nd?
Oh, let's just wait. Jess has the master plan of the the bewitching calendar there. But we could go to the Heike room easy enough.
We won't have Tara down there.
Oh, well, spending all this
well,
money, let's
But
get
it
it.
sounds like you've got a long list of other things you need to go get through, and you probably won't get through them all tonight, and maybe you'll need an overflow for those. And then we could circle back to this on October 16th. I mean, I'm available on the 2nd, but
Okay, October 2nd would work.
Let's nail it.
Monday night, October 2nd.
That good for everybody?
At 5.
Are
I might not be able, but I'll try.
Okay.
are all of the October, so I can't talk. October 2nd and October 16th, we're doing it at 5.
Correct.
I actually have jury duty.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah. Right.
I got caught with that once. Oh, well, it's not
So
bad.
it's gonna be for the 16th and the 10th.
Okay.
You know, you can
That's-
get out of
That's
that,
a
you
little
know?
bit of
Looking
relief.
forward to
Now
it.
we're not so congested with
Say, hey,
meeting dates.
I gotta run the whole department of the town of Alton. I gotta get out of here. They'll release you.
100% will use that.
Yeah.
okay, so Jessica, you and I will connect on the ADUs and see what.
Really?
I
what you
will.
found.
Yeah, you available later on in the afternoon tomorrow?
Must be cuter than I am.
I have to
I did.
present my operating budget
Okay.
tomorrow with the town administrator.
Good to know.
I have a call that's somewhere around 2 or 3. That's gonna be about an hour. Do
Do you
you
want to meet later on in the day or?
you want me to try you late in the afternoon?
Yeah, I have to attend the selectmen's meeting tomorrow night, so I'm here all day.
Give me a good window to try.
You know, to come to the selectmen's meeting.
Sometime after your afternoon meeting, I don't know, like 4-ish.
Okay, that's good. Cause I don't, my night one isn't till 7:15, so that works well.
Okay. You calling me or am I calling you?
I'll call you 4-ish when I get out of my other one.
All right.
Okay, have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Appreciate your time. Over and out. Well, I'm gonna ask for like a couple minute rest for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make a quick run.
I'm gonna use a
Yeah.
break for a second.
So did you keep any of that straight? Oh, sorry. She's
No,
adding.
yes. Yeah.
It's almost like you gotta go to the town attorney and say, can we do this? If no, can we do that? If yes, can we also do this? If no, can then we do that? If, as
Right.
long as you've got it all figured out.
Right, because within that ordinance, it does restrict. Shall not exceed 35% of the total finished floor space of the principal dwelling unit. So it gives you you can't have more than 1,500. You can't have, we can't make people have less than 750. And then there are sort of that criteria in the middle.
Good.
Um,
Excuse me.
It was a good point, though. I mean, with the ADUs thing it is what it is, and there are people that has a real need, but there are others that
Yeah.
will take advantage of.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, like in the Lakeshore residential zone, we require them to be either within or attached to. So they're not allowed, above the garage, barn, whatever other structure you have. So I mean, there are, those limitations per the zone.
And the thing is, we have it, but we don't have control on what people are gonna do, and it's already by experience here in Alton. I have seen garage that they have accommodated for storage, but they figured that the storage of the garage is gonna be look nicer if it's finished. So when
I want my boxes to be happy.
to be, yeah, 100%. I mean, very conditioned boxes. So it is, and yeah, I'm not gonna be going to the house within the next month or so to see how many people you have having a party in there. So it is what it is. And that is. You're thinking the same thing I'm thinking.
I had a very long weekend,
Oh.
Congratulations.
78 holes of golf,
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Where
that's
were you?
nice.
Where'd you go?
Poland Spring.
Oh, up north?
Yeah.
So we were out, we played Taconic. Then the next day we played Equinic. You know the two of them?
No,
So Taconic is at oh, what's the name of the school? Farthest you can go in Massachusetts, pretty much. Williams. It's across the street. And then we went from there. and we
It wasn't enough.
But there's the Equinox. The next door to the Equinox is the Aquanic. Aquanic's been there forever. That's the fancy one with all the paintings from the guy's name is, you know, the kid sitting next to the cop at the. Who's the guy that did those paintings?
Norman Rockwell.
Oh,
Norman
Rock-
Rockwell as well, clubhouse and stuff.
Okay,
Same deal.
thanks for the quick break. Okay, so we should probably go back to number 1. Or A, definitions. We should touch this, right?
Yes.
I'll let you jump onto it.
Okay, so proposed amendment number 1 is to amend Article 200 definitions to amend bed and breakfast to include accommodations for less than 3 guests. So this was kind of left off last year as part of our whole revamping when we added that short-term rental use and then amended our other uses. And this was left off of that, so just to
And so that we're
clarify,
changing.
changing it
one.
from 3 to 1.
Any other feedback on that? If hearing none, I would accept a motion moving
So
it.
I would address the rationale.
Okay,
I really didn't have time to get really creative with the rationales on this, so that may need to be amended as we
Okay.
move forward.
well, I was kind of hoping, let's see if we can do it now, because if we can move that to the planning board, we don't have to talk about it again.
I agree. Yeah, so
Let's get it done.
Let's look at that and
Yep.
yeah, and then we can just be done with it. Yep.
Okay, do you have any language that you feel would be good in the rationale position?
I put something in there, but it's just pretty much what I just said.
On that, well, but on that sentence, this usually says strictly prohibited in all zoning district. Wouldn't that be, have you talked to legal about somebody feeling that that statement might be discriminatory to the use of land of some special individual? And
There
a
is-
specific, like, in the commercial zone or something like that,
Where are you?
definitions,
Are you on page 1,
page 1.
planning board? Amendment
Uh,
number 1?
Junkyard.
No,
page-
we're on number 1.
right
Bed and
above it.
breakfast up above,
Above it.
right there.
Sorry.
No problem.
It's okay.
It's the cold. You brought a sweatshirt, smart man.
So my thought was that what you said was prompting this is that we really kind of missed this bringing on the short-term rental regulation. So let's just say that. Let's just say to address potential conflicts with the recently passed short-term rental
Ordinance.
ordinance, thank you. This amendment is being proposed to allow for less than 3 guest rooms for transient use. Done.
Very good. Nice job.
Thanks. Can I leave now?
Yeah, sure.
Can I go now?
You get up early this morning, did you?
Okay, so This amendment, wait a minute, where are we? So this amendment is to address potential conflicts with the addition of the short-term rental use to allow less than 3 guests for non-transient use. What did you say?
No, so I didn't don't start with this amendment. So I just started with to address potential conflicts.
Yeah.
With the recent approval of short-term rental ordinance, the short-term rental ordinance. And then from there, what you've written.
Less this amendment.
No, then.
Now
then
you
from
can put
there you
that, yeah,
say
this amendment is being, yes,
proposed.
absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so to address potential conflicts with the recent approval of the short-term rental ordinance, this amendment is being proposed to allow less than 3 guests for
Guest rooms.
3 guest rooms for transient use.
Yes,
Sound good? Everybody like that? I'll accept a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Drew, seconded by you. Any other conversation?
And the motion is to,
To change the, put that rationale in we'll just deal with the rationale. This will just strictly deal with the rationale. And then we'll go back and approve the amendment to go forward. I think that's a
I
proper
don't
way.
think you need to vote and approve the rationale. I think.
No,
I think
I was gonna, my motion that I just made.
Yeah.
Is for that, to accept this proposed amendment number 1 to move forward to the planning board with the modified rationale.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
Nick's second.
Nick second.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? None. Motion goes to the planning board.
So planning board proposed amendment number 2, this touches upon a new definition for junkyard. And it amends the existing definitions for automotive and truck junk motor vehicle dealer, automotive and truck motor vehicle dealer, and automotive and truck used motor vehicle dealer. These are actually suggestions and recommended language that come from town council. This also adds a section to section 401 permitted uses, the table of uses. Section D, retail businesses and service, number 27 junkyard, and they're actually not allowed in all of the zones.
Okay, so I understand the junkyard and the truck junk motor vehicle dealer, but an automotive and a truck dealer, we've had people with little, car shops, if you want to say. I mean, they have, half a dozen cars out front and they've sold them. This would deny that to happen, right?
No, just junkyard.
Okay, well, in these automotive and truck vehicle dealer, where's the junk part?
Okay, so if you look, all right, so if you're looking at this,
Yep,
right, where it says A, Article 200 definition.
I got junkyard.
Right.
I got that
so
automotive.
all in, right, so it's all in red, so that's the addition.
Yep,
And then this is just referring, it's making people refer to the RSA. So whatever these instead, because they were all worded differently originally. And he says, I don't suggest that. If you're cleaning up this section, have that refer to.
so I guess my question
RSA.
is, if someone has a car lot that they want to sell some cars,
Yeah,
is it permitted or not?
it is permitted.
It is
Yes.
permitted.
The only thing that is the
The
not
junk
permitted
portion
is
of
the
it.
junkyard. Yeah, just the junkyard itself. Everything else is staying the same as far as the uses. Maybe I should,
It's confusing to me.
I'll reformat it.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
yeah.
And then can that, so my question is with regards to the enforcement portion, will that be opening the door for people like we have the mechanic shop here on Main Street and they have some cars are stored that are on register? Would that fit into any of these that somebody, because they're within a zoning district within the town, can somebody complain about this business that now is hosting these vehicles there and then claim that they don't fit the ordinance and then having them through enforceable procedures. And that was why I raised the question of, I mean, these
That I
people
don't know.
already have business.
I don't know what these are individually off the top of my head. I don't know if what's happening doesn't fit into whatever it is that he's already approved for. Like I don't know. This
Well,
is- this
that
is
whole
just-
ordinance was fouled up before, because when I did my project over there, a car service center with gas sales was allowed in the zone. But just for the mechanical shop, it wasn't allowed. I had to go to the ZBA to get that. And he's the same way, and he should have had that, but he didn't. But that's water over the dam as far as I'm concerned. But you know, now it's
And
allowable.
he's right, and he's an existing use. He's already, it's.
Legal
it's an existing
non-conforming, so it
operation.
will be legal non-conforming.
Yeah. So I'll kind of change this around a
Yeah,
little bit, so
just-
it's a little clearer.
Yeah, I just want nobody to feel that a car, I hate the word to use the word dealership, but it
Yep.
might as well,
Right.
is out,
I can see how it's listed. It almost looks like now
Yeah.
everything's not,
allowed,
you're really not scrutinizing what you're reading.
right?
You're kind of looking at it at a quick glance.
And that's what people will do when they're in the,
Yep.
if
No,
they
I-
glance
I-
at all.
Yep. No,
Thanks, Jess.
I'll definitely clarify that.
So
Okay.
can we, because we're doing two things here, we're adding a definition,
Yep.
but you're also clarifying other existing definitions, and the definition that we're adding is being added to the table of uses as well. Can we make that one category, that addressing of the junkyard, and it's going on the table of uses, and then make a whole separate proposal that references, 'cause what I'm doing is I'm blending everything together. I'm saying
Right.
anything
So
has to
what
do with an automotive
right.
dealer is junk.
So
Right.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this section on this second page that starts with B. And I'm gonna put that right underneath the junkyard definition. So it's just all about junkyard. That's gonna be A. And then B will be sort of these others.
And that will be right
Separated.
above rationale, and that will tie that, I think, into
Yeah.
the rationale. Will
Yeah.
bring that to light a little bit
Yep,
better.
I'll separate it so that it's very clear.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll come back to number 2 next time. And I don't think we need to discuss 3 anymore tonight.
It was all good points. I mean, seriously, guys, that was good.
Yeah,
Everybody caught a lot of stuff.
okay, so I'm a little confused here.
Okay.
Is it C that we should be going to? And not, I was looking
C.
for 4, but
Um,
somehow we
so
lost
this is
that.
still, so page 5 is still flexible zoning.
Okay,
Top of page 6 is still flexible zoning.
okay,
So we're down at amendment number
number
4
4. Yep, you're back.
Page 6 or 7
on page 6.
on page 6.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the second half of amendment 4 is on page 7. Mr. Shea, would you like to join us at the table? You may if you'd like. Okay. So proposed amendment number 4 proposes amending section 329 condominiums to be consistent with state law. So this came to light a short while ago, and our current ordinance puts restrictions on how people can condominium or what people can condominiumize. So this just cleans it up.
And this basically is conversions,
It's conversions and it's new construction.
construction, yeah.
So we can't restrict people from condominiumizing.
Yeah, you can't discriminate by the type of
Existing
ownership.
or new construction. So, so currently there's an A and a B section.
Uh-huh,
So I'm sort of getting rid of the B section and it's just gonna be sort of one
Now,
one ordinance.
will condominiums, let me make sure I word this right so you understand. Let's say if you build a 5 or 6 unit and you condominiumize it, it's still going to be a special exception in the rural zone? Or is it going to be allowed? Because I think it's in its,
Condominiums are allowed in every zone.
right, okay, multifamily housing.
Well, that, I mean, that's different.
Okay.
This is just.
If it was an
talking
apartment
about
building,
condos.
if it was an apartment building that sat in a condo environment, an apartment building would be different than a condo.
Right, this is just addressing form
Condominium.
of use,
Okay.
the form of ownership, sorry.
Because of that form of ownership is a single family, still is a single family
Exactly.
dwelling.
Yeah.
Even-
Right.
And it's a residential use.
That is correct. So it wouldn't fit the category for multifamily.
So we're getting rid of all this language that is under the section about new construction, only talked about allowing multifamily dwellings to become condominiumized, and that we can't restrict that to just multifamily.
Yep.
So I just kind of clean this up to kind of make it as one ordinance instead of, the 2 sections. I crossed off language under 3B.
Yep.
That talked about only if the application's considered under for site plan review. It is required for site plan review.
Yeah,
so
that's a good idea.
I just took that out just because it's really not necessary. I don't think.
There is one thing though, I mean, okay, I see it now. I see it now with the comma at the last paragraph where it says that it has to conform to the current adopted mandated zoning, site plan review regulations,
Correct.
subdivision regulation codes.
Yep.
I'll say building codes, just to clarify what codes we're reflecting on. That is not only zoning.
Right. Right. Well, it talks about zoning ordinances and it just left codes sort of as a general. Because
Yeah.
there could be other town codes that,
Oh, there's life safety and all the other
There's-
things that come into play.
right.
But that will
So,
fall within the
Codes.
yeah, instead of specifying.
Yeah, I don't think we ought to specify
it
because that would restrict you.
Because then you got to
Listen.
list all the different codes.
You agree with that, Pedro?
Yeah, I do. No,
Okay.
Just as an aside, does the condominium requirement also, is it also 2 acres per condo? I know,
So when you condominiumize something, it's just a form of ownership.
Right, but he wanted to say the
Oh.
density.
Yeah, how you do your single family, multifamily townhouse, whatever is it, that's
it's still. up
completely
against the
different.
2 acre in the rural zone.
Unless you went under that other, what we just talked about,
Yeah.
channel, item Article 3. I think that's the only time it would preempt that, I would think.
Okay, and the rationale was rather simple.
Yep.
That was not a complicated rationale.
Yeah, no, that's good. Keep it short and sweet.
Right, I mean, that's why we're changing it.
Anybody have any further questions on amendment number 4? If anybody's ready, I'd entertain a motion to take this to the planning board.
I'll make a motion that we take Article
And then-
300, general provisions for condominiums, section 329 to the planning board.
and if you'd add amendment 4 to that, okay. Anything else?
Second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a proposal to the rationale,
Okay,
that we phrase it as, this amendment is being proposed to make this section consistent with state law by removing previously noted restrictions.
okay. Any discussion on that?
So this amendment is being proposed to.
I already
make
wrote it out
this-
for you.
Oh, thank you.
What a guy.
You just send that along.
Okay, Mark, with you, you're all with that and you seconded that. Okay, so those seconds move forward. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Amendment goes to the planning board. Okay, amendment number 5.
Yep, so amendment number 5, this is a pretty simple one. This would amend Article 200 definitions for self-storage facility to allow individual units for sale, because currently it just restricts it for
To
lease
lease.
or for rent. And
Yep.
again, that sort of comes into play with this whole condominium discussion.
Yeah,
that you'd
and there
be-
is a big push for
can't restrict it.
condoizing those types
Exactly.
of storage buildings.
Yep.
Yeah. Any further discussion, anybody?
Does Drew have any suggestions as
The
to?
rationale?
No, I thought it was great the way it was.
Rationale?
Yeah, I mean, that's about as straightforward as you can get.
Okay, just checking.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a
I'll
motion.
make that, oh,
No.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Drew.
Since he backed down so easy.
Okay. And we heard your motion, but it's just in a haphazard way. So do I have a second? 6 seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
You just say it better than I.
Okay, item number 6, amendment 6 goes to the PB. Okay,
That was amendment 5.
That was
5. I meant to say that. I was looking at it and said 6, but now I'll look at 6. Okay, Jess?
So, planning board proposed amendment number 6. This is proposing to amend Article 400, Section 401 permitted uses, table of uses, Section D, number 47, short-term rental to be allowed in the recreation service zone. As a requirement per RSA 675-7. Any proposed changes to a zoning amendment that changes a permitted use in a zone that includes 100 or less property owners needs to get notified of the public hearing. They did not get notified of the public hearing. So this is being presented again with just the recreation service zone. So that way they had the opportunity to properly be noticed.
Yep. So, and your rationale is right there, I think.
I think I
So-
wanted to make it clear
gotta be
to the
spelled out.
people
Yeah.
that what
Yep.
took place and that we're fixing it.
There's
Yeah.
no
I'll make a motion.
abbreviating that.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that amendment 6 be represented to the properties that are included in the RS zone.
But we're just voting to put it before the planning board now to
Right.
make our recommendation.
I'll amend my, and I'll make a motion to that amendment 6 be put in front of the planning board as specified within this.
I'll second that.
motion by Mark, seconded by Drew. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving to the planning board. Okay, Article 7.
Okay. Planning board proposed amendment number 7 is to amend Article 400, Section 401 permitted uses, table of uses, Section B, number 1, church, to be consistent with state law. So this went into effect in July of 2022. The ZAC committee chose not to amend the existing ordinance last year, just on the off chance that things may have been changed at the state, at the state level.
Yeah.
They did not change. A proposal was submitted, but it was not voted in. I did pass this by town council, as you guys had asked me to do at the last meeting, and he highly suggests that we update, because then we would be in violation of some federal regulations
Yeah.
and
Churches.
everything else.
Churches, synagogue, well,
It's just as simple as that.
but we did last time, we moved to strike the word church and use house of worship or something of
I
that
remember
nature.
that. It was House of Worship, I think.
Yeah, so,
The problem is I think the way our zoning is already written, it says church. That's the definition that's in there, and then you have to look that up.
Right.
Now,
Well,
within
then
the
I'd-
state
I'd have
law,
definitions we can change without a public hearing, correct?
No.
No? Then I think
would
we
have
ought to
be
clean that
added
up.
on here.
Because there'll be somebody that wants a synagogue and we're gonna be bad people and you know, I just think we ought to cover the bases. So
Well, I
no
think
matter
the
what you're,
bases- The bases are covered in the state law, because if you go into the state law and read the state law, it's pretty clear of what they're calling is basically a church is any house of worship. And it has to have a certain amount of dedicated usage specifically to
Right.
worshiping. So, and practicing of the
right,
faith.
I understand that, because that's what happened down at the campground, the Christian Conference Center years ago, because they want to call it all a church and they couldn't. So agreed, but I don't know. It's what everybody thinks. I just think we ought to be a little bit more inclusive to the terminology, but if it's covered and we're sure of that,
Yeah, I think the state law has it really well covered. I think. Yeah, I mean, we may want to consider this down the road.
Yeah.
That you just can't use that one word church, that it is any house of worship.
the reason I say that,
Recognized.
if we're in a position of cleaning something up,
Can we just put a slash next to it and put church / house of worship? Is that allowed?
I don't know.
Can you do that? Or house of worship / church, whichever way you wanna divvy it up? Is that just I agree with you. I think the bases are covered there. I do.
Yeah.
But church is a very, and he's right. If somebody with a synagogue comes about, they're gonna think,
So RSA 674-76 is religious use of land and structures. And it refers to, religious purposes, the religious exercise of, what else? The religious or non-religious nature.
why don't
If
we just say, instead of churches, for religious nature? Or something along those lines, because you did not mention church one time in what
No,
you just
so
said.
that's why I want to look up and see how they,
Yeah.
describe that.
Yeah, because I know they had it all covered.
Yeah. Religious.
just don't want us to
religious
be-
Use of land and structures. That's the title of that RSA.
what's the title of it?
Then let's change.
Religious
ours.
use of land
All the
and
state.
structures.
That's what we
Why
try
don't
to
we just
do.
copy what they have? Why don't we just copy what the state has?
Perfect.
Yeah, let's just use what they had. I did so longer than church, but
That's okay.
Fine.
So we're gonna create a new definition.
that was not my intent.
Well, I guess I'm kind of thinking out loud, sorry.
We're gonna, I believe, per the information provided, what the intent is to replace the institutional use label of church for what the RSA is listed.
Right.
So the existing definition of church is pretty much what I just read from that. So we could change, we don't have to change the whole definition. We
Just
could
the church
change
part.
the definition of the word church
For that,
to,
To that.
I'd feel better with that
and
personally.
everything it'll all,
It'll be
Yeah,
in the same state format.
right.
I'll buy that.
So it's not a total new definition.
I was gonna say, so
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So,
so I'll fix
Well,
it and then
yeah,
we can do it again.
we can massage it. Yeah, or we can approve it with, we'll wait till we hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, we'll move to past Article Amendment 7 rather. And we'll talk about that next month or next time.
so that's just gonna be changed.
And we shall move to number 8.
Okay,
Jess, I'll
number
let
8
you, I'll let you
has
explain
the
this one.
... Yeah, 'cause I hadn't gotten a chance to actually
So you rather
address-
pass on this one for now?
address this yet.
Okay.
right? Because so right above that, so our ordinance literally says reference RSA 483B as amended. It doesn't, it gives you no information. You just go directly to the RSA. And so the problem with that is there will be nothing within this shoreline protection overlay district that the town can enforce.
Well, we gotta fix
Pretty
that.
much, it's pretty much, you're right. So this is saying, the town's not really worried about it. The state's got it. But we don't do that with any of our other ordinances. So that's kind of the
Yep.
point of
Okay, so you'll work on that one for
being able
next
to
time.
draft, right? Yes. And that's it. So I did, just so you know, I did take off, all of those childcare uses were listed.
Yep.
At one point. So I went on to the, New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. Under their licensing childcare programs, and everything matches. I was told at one point that they were not current. So that's why I added it on there, but I went and checked it today and they're all up to date except for one of them, but it looks like it includes kind of like two uses, like a family daycare and a home daycare. And it's allowing, more things to take place. So I figured we'll just leave that alone and call it a day. And so I took that off. just so you
Okay,
know.
I'll do a quick summary here. Planning Board Amendment number 1 is going forward to the Planning Board. Planning Board Amendment number 2 is Jess is gonna work on the placement of the other thing, so it's a little bit clearer.
Yep.
Just before the rationale. Amendment number 3, still got a lot of work to do.
Yep.
I'm just gonna call it that. Number 4, that's gonna be moved to the Planning Board.
Yep.
Number 5 's moved to the Planning Board. Number 6 is moved to the Planning Board. Number 7, next time we're gonna massage the word church or to follow the state language. And number 8, we'll deal next time.
Yep, I'm gonna do my best to be able to create something here. That's all I'm gonna say right now.
Okay, she's gonna stick to it.
I will do my best.
Okay, public input. Okay, public input's closed because there's no, oh, you are here, sir. You're public tonight.
I'm very impressed with the efforts of the board and I thank you for your efforts and that's.
Well, thank you. I'll close public input. Any further discussion for the good of the organization? Seeing none.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, and we have our meeting dates all scheduled for the next time. So the next time we see you is the 16th of October. Okay, any second to Drew's motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Time to tie on the feedback, everybody.